Mr. Dre Baldwin. It's
Hey,
good to see
Charmaine,
you.
I'm eating potato chips.
Did we catch
How are
you?
you?
Potato chips. Wait a minute. Does your personal trainer know that you're eating potato chips?
I don't have a personal trainer anymore. I'm my personal trainer.
Oh, so I see what it's like. You retire from the world of being an athlete, and now you just eat all junk.
No, I've been doing a lot of work today. It's been a long day so far already.
Yeah, I get it.
I
Well,
work these calories off. So you would never
yeah,
know
that's
unless
fair.
I told you.
Actually, I will venture to tell you that I think you work these calories off more than anyone I've ever met in my life. So I got to give you a hard time when I can, but I think we both know it's kind of bullshit. You know what you're doing.
Yeah, I think I'll be all right.
All right, very cool. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited, Dre, because we are live not only on your Facebook page, but mine as well, personal and
Great.
professional for mine. We're also live on my LinkedIn and we're live on your YouTube account. Why are we live in all these different places? What are we going to talk about today?
Are we live on LinkedIn too?
We're live
On
on
my
my
LinkedIn?
LinkedIn.
How
On
about mine?
yours, LinkedIn is still saying that you are not approved to go live on LinkedIn. Apparently, you're not cool enough for them, probably because they know you're eating potato chips and you should be eating some vegetables.
It said I'm not approved to go live. I
Says
already
you're not
did the
approved to go
live.
live. That's right.
I already did the application and everything. They should have already approved me.
I mean, I
That
don't know
was
what
for
to tell
my
you, sir.
personal though. So I don't know the business account. Maybe you have to get approved for that too.
That's actually a good point. And since we just do that
Yeah,
together, that's actually a pretty good point. Yeah.
my personal one has already been approved for going live because I remember applying and getting it and all that.
All right. Well, personal wouldn't let me do it. It's like, yeah, you're not controlling Drake Baldwin's personal LinkedIn account. Apparently, LinkedIn doesn't trust me to run your account for you. But just know that everything else
Okay.
we're saying here is live in the other platforms.
Okay. All right. So LinkedIn, I gotta get on top of them. So
We'll sort that. Yep, we will
we're
sort
live
that
on
out.
LinkedIn as well.
So, why
Great.
are we live, Dre? What is it that we've come together and talk about today?
Well, we came to talk. Ostensibly, we are talking about Work on Your Game Live, which is my live event that is taking place January 21st and 22nd in Miami, Florida. The two specific areas of focus for this next event are leadership and communication. That is what we are going to be covering at the next Work on Your Game Live. Nah, fam, what's going on? Well, I don't know your real name. You got to tell me your real name so I know who I'm talking to. And
Dad
dad
and
and son
son.
also. Dad
And
and son. I need to know y'all real names as well.
check that out,
Capo
right?
status 529. I need to know your name too. So any of y'all who's coming in, any of y'all coming in from LinkedIn, YouTube. Those are I think that's YouTube. You got to tell me your
This
actual
is all
name so I know who I'm
YouTube.
talking to. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that is Work on Your Game Live that's taking place again January 21, 22. Now, one of the topics in that event is, as I just said, leadership. So today specifically, we're going to be talking about what people want from bosses, coaches, and leaders. So that's for any of you who is in a leadership position or an authority position. Here's what the people who are following you and listening to you, or maybe subordinate to you, or maybe the people whose checks you cash, the people who you can hire and fire, or the people who have decided to voluntarily follow you. These are the things that they want from you. That's what we're talking about today, Charmaine.
All right, very cool. I'm excited about this. Not only because I'm very interested in hearing what you have to say about what do you think people want from bosses, coaches, and leaders, but also from my personal experience. I've come a long way from learning how to develop my own leadership skills. And as a business owner, sometimes I don't always know. Sometimes it is hard to tell. And the more professional you get and the more experience you have, the more sometimes I think you wonder, are you really getting the correct information, or is somebody really telling you exactly what they really want, or are they just telling you what they think you want to hear? So I'm looking forward to diving into this today, Dre.
Usually they're telling you what they think you want to hear because you're the boss, especially
Doesn't work.
if you hire them, if you have the power to fire them, if you can affect their paycheck. Most of the time people are going to tell you what they want you to hear. But here's the good news.
Yeah.
Even though most people are going to tell you that, I am not in that position where I had to tell anybody what they want to hear. Actually, my whole business is based around telling people what they need to hear. That's how I'm able to be effective as a coach, as a mastermind leader, as a speaker, and as a trainer. So what I'm going to do here today is, all you bosses, coaches, and leaders out there, I'm going to tell you what your employees and maybe even some of your own family members and your kids and your friends either can't, are incapable of, or won't tell you to your face, but I will. That's what I'm going to tell you here today.
Okay. Quick question before we dive into this. Have you ever even one time told somebody what they want to hear?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Mostly you're a need guy. I know you
Girls
tell
that
me
I
what I need to hear all the time. Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. So what you got, Dre? What do people want from their bosses, coaches, and leaders? Let's dive in.
All right. Well, I got a couple of points that I want to share here. I got 1, 2, 3, 4. Damn, I got more than I thought. I got 6 points that I want to share here. So I'm gonna go a little bit quickly through each one. But with the caveat for everybody who's listening, understand I'm gonna go into these in detail at Work on Your Game Live, in more detail Work on Your Game Live, January 21st, 22nd. And oh yeah, the reason why we're talking about that is because Wednesday is the cutoff date for you to get your ticket to the event. So that's why this is a time-sensitive situation. This is not just me randomly talking about things. This is an evergreen topic. Most of the material I talk about, this is not an evergreen, or the urgency is not evergreen, because after Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern, you cannot get a ticket to this event. But the context and the content, this stuff is an evergreen idea. But if you want to be at that event and learn directly from me and meet me and shake my hand and talk to me and get your questions answered by me, Wednesday midnight is the last opportunity you have to actually do that. So that's why we're doing this right now. Should have told you. Should have said that at the beginning. But
Very cool.
now let's get into it. So as an athlete, as a former pro athlete, and now as an entrepreneur, I played for a lot of coaches. A lot of people don't know this about me, but I had a lot of bosses. I worked a lot of jobs. So before and around playing basketball, I probably had 20 to 30 jobs in my life. And when I say jobs, I'm talking like CVS, convenience store, water ice stand, McDonald's, Pizza Hut, Friendlies. I've waited tables before. I've been a maintenance man before. I've worked at grocery stores. I've done all kinds of stuff. I haven't done any of the new age type of jobs. I never did like Uber or Uber Eats. The only reason I didn't do it is because that stuff came out after I was already an entrepreneur. But if I was around the age of maybe 15 to 21 at this time, I probably have done those jobs too. So I've had a lot of different jobs. A lot of people don't know that. And because of that, I've had a lot of bosses. I've had a lot of people who were in leadership positions. Some of them were actually good leaders and some of them were not. And as an athlete, you know, when you play a team sport, you always have a coach. So I'm going to share some things that I know from my own experience as being a boss and leader, and also as having many of them, what people really want from those people and how some of them mess it up. All right. So the first one is the boss or the leader always suppresses their own ego. Always suppress your own ego. You are not more concerned with your own glory or even proving yourself right all the time as you are with actually helping the team succeed. I remember I had a college coach who said, and it's funny because I'm going to use the same college coach as the positive and the negative example, because one of the things that he said at the beginning of the season when we first started practice was, everything is about the program. Nobody's bigger than the program. Everything that happens here on this basketball team is all about the program. But at the same time, this coach would do things and say things that showed that it might have been more about him. I had a coach in college who had played in the NBA for many years. And I remember he played 13 years specifically in the NBA. And I know that number simply because every time we would have practice and a player challenged the coach would say something or he would berate a player in practice. He did that all the time. And a player pushed back against the berating, the coach would exclaim and yell back at the player, "I played 13 years in the NBA," as if that was a justification of his critique of the player. Now, his playing 13 years in the NBA had nothing to do with his ability to coach college basketball, because he wasn't a player anymore. But he would always say that as if to say, nothing that I say can be challenged by any of you because my playing career was better than yours, which his playing career was better than ours. But what does it have to do with your ability to coach? Nothing at all. So this is something that showed me that his ego was a little bit out in front of what he was doing, and how that ended up showing. That ended up showing in the long run, something because his coaching career did not last long. He didn't even last 4 years. If you're a college coach and they don't let you coach for even 4 years, I mean, you were really screwing up on some level, because you don't at least get to see your first class of players through to their senior year. So 4 years is like the baseline level of a terrible coach. He didn't even last 4 years, and then he didn't get another coaching job after that. So the thing is, as a boss or leader, you have to remember that your job is not just to flex your muscles and get your way and have whatever you say go all the time, even though you have the power to do that. Your real job is to help shepherd the group, the team, the organization to more success. You just happen to be the person in front. So that's the first point. I was thinking you were gonna have some feedback on that.
Yeah, we will. I will. What was going on there is I was just getting a PM on the side. I don't think I'm gonna pull this person in yet, but I might have somebody to introduce you later. Sorry, I did not expect that name to come up. This is a very old contact of mine. So, okay. Right. So for this Trey, let's start with this. What I just put up here. Your professional experience rarely has anything to do with your ability to be a good leader. Do you agree with that? Is that what you were just talking about?
Your professional experience in doing the thing does not necessarily mean you are qualified to lead others who are doing the thing. That's the way I would say that.
Wouldn't the coach have a point, though? If he did say, what do you mean? Why are you asking me this question? I've played for 13 years. I mean, isn't there something to that, though? He did earn that part.
Yes, he played, but he wasn't playing. He was coaching. So, no. To answer your question, no, it has nothing to do with it, because there are a lot of really good players who are terrible coaches simply because coaching, yes, you are coaching people to do what you did, but to coach someone, you have to be able to step back. You're not on the court anymore. You're not playing. So just think about it. If being good at playing made you great at coaching, then the best coaches in the NBA right now would be Michael Jordan, Bill Russell, Magic Johnson. They would all just be Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, or I mean, they're still playing, but you get what I'm saying, right? Michael Jordan would be the best coach in the league, and they win the championship every year because that's what he did when he played, right? But he doesn't coach at all because it's a completely different discipline. And if we use basketball as an example, one thing that you would notice is a lot of the best coaches in basketball are players who played, but they were not the superstars. They weren't the bums, but they were kind of like the role players. So these are the guys who are close enough to the star to have an understanding of the star, and they understood what it could feel like to be at the end of the bench, but they were kind of in the middle. So they have that mix. But those superstar guys, they can't relate to the guy sitting at the end of the bench, so they can't coach them. So that's why being a star player doesn't make you a good coach.
That's fair. Well, then let's apply it to business. On the business side, I'll tell you, every promotion, before I was a business owner, every promotion I got, I earned. I started from the ground. I worked my way up. I played office politics. I understood how to read the people, and I got promoted as a result of being really good at what I was doing in the front lines. I noticed after I got promoted, maybe it didn't make me a great leader just because I got the promotion. However, the experience that I had did inform at least my direction to my team. So when I was being pushed back on from some people saying, well, you're just not doing the job anymore, I always felt like that was kind of an excuse because I did do the job. I did know the job. And so therefore, why are you questioning what I'm telling you to do when I just went through it myself? I'm telling you what works. But for some reason, that didn't make me a good leader. What it did was create some uncomfortable conversations for some people. It wasn't the best way to get them to do what I need them to do. Why is that?
Yeah, that's possible simply because you used to be their peer. Now you're there. Now you have a position of authority. Yeah. So yeah, that can definitely happen when you graduate from within the same organization. So I would think that might be one of the biggest reasons, but you would know better than I would.
So then how do you overcome it? How would you recommend somebody overcome that? At that point, I'm a boss. I'm a leader. Whether my leadership skills are good or not, I have to do the job. So how do you overcome that?
Well, you have to show that you care about the success of the people more than you care about flexing your muscle as that boss, as that leader. And that actually leads into the second point. So let's talk about that. So I'm glad you asked this question. And we did not plan this, but this is how clean I make my material, that I already know the questions that are coming. So
Dre's perfect in every way.
Yes. I wouldn't go that far. You set me up for failure by saying that. All right. But anyway, the boss, you have to care about the success of your people more than you care about the success of you, because as a leader, you should already understand inherently that the more I help the team be successful and I help the individuals within the team be successful, the more successful the team's going to be anyway. So I'll give you an example. And this one didn't involve money, but when I remember joining Toastmasters, which for those who don't know what that is a voluntary communication organization where people just get together, practice speaking, practice listening, evaluating each other, critiquing each other. I joined that group in 2014, going into 2015. I was into my basketball career. I knew I wanted to get into professional speaking. I had no idea what Toastmasters was. Somebody mentioned it to me. I went to a meeting. I liked it. I joined the club the very next week. So I started coming to every meeting. I'm volunteering to speak every opportunity I get, just to practice giving speeches and see how I can do. And people liked my stuff. I had some natural ability at public speaking, and also had many hours of public speaking practice by that moment already, because I already had thousands of videos on YouTube. Even though I was talking to a camera then, now I was talking to actual humans. Right. It was a seamless transition for me. And after it wasn't even a whole year, probably about 4 months into it, I had already completed, like, there were certain benchmarks that Toastmasters have. Like, you finish 10 speeches, you get a certain, not a award, but a certain, no, those letters people get after their names. What do they call it? Like a distinction.
Like distinction.
So yeah, right. You get a certain distinction. So I got the distinction so fast. And the thing is, some people were being Toastmasters for years and they would not do 10 speeches because they would get nervous about speaking and all this stuff. I did it in like 4 months. So I went to the president of the club at the time and I said to her, well, look, I paid for a years long membership and I already completed the 10 speeches. There's people here who've been here way longer than me and they haven't finished 10 speeches. I don't want to just keep giving speeches. How else can I be engaged in this group without just giving speeches? Because they need help more than I do. Now, I was already better than most of these people. So she said, well, why don't you become, she basically gave me kind of like a vice president role. It's called the vice president of education. Basically, you help other people get their speeches done, keep them engaged in the group and all that stuff. It was a way for me to stay involved. And the only reason I took that role is because I had paid for a years long membership and I finished everything in 4 months. Not everything, but I finished the benchmark in 4 months. And I already knew, I recognized within 4 months that Toastmasters was not actually what I needed for what I wanted to do entrepreneurially. But since I was already there, I said, why not just keep showing up? Maybe I'll meet some people and all that stuff. So I kept coming. Now I had this authority position. Now, again, I wasn't a boss. I couldn't hire anybody. I couldn't fire anybody. Nobody was getting paid. But since I had ascended to this position, now I could tell that people were looking at me a little bit different. Like, oh, this guy's like somebody amongst us. He was just one of us. You know, when he showed up 4 months ago, now he's somebody in this group. So I knew that I had to show them that I was there to help them, not there to just show how great I was. I wasn't there to show myself off. And again, I was already of the mindset of doing exactly that because I didn't have anything to prove to these people. So once I started helping people out and they started to see, all right, this guy, Dre, is actually trying to help. He's actually trying to make the club better. They started to follow my leadership a little bit more. And then the president of the club ended up having to resign because she had other life commitments that she couldn't stick to. So she basically passed the presidency into my lap. So I became the leader of this club. And again, I had just shown up 6 months earlier. And at the beginning of my leadership, there were some people who were pushing back against me. They probably didn't think I might have been competent enough to run the club. They might have thought this guy doesn't know how to lead. Maybe he's a good speaker, but he's a basketball player. How's he going to teach us anything about communication? But as they saw the things that I was doing, the way I was showing up, being the first one there, the last one to leave, how I was calling people like, hey, you haven't been to the meeting in a couple of weeks, or hey, you haven't given a speech the last couple of times you came here, or hey, here's a new person here. I want everybody to go meet them and shake their hands so that they want to come back. That's the way that we grow the club. Every guest needs to feel like they're welcome, not feel like they're the only outsider when everybody else knows each other. And I would say this in front of everybody in the room. And because I knew how to say it in a certain way, and the way that I would communicate it, people started to follow my leadership. And within that year, people really took a liking to me, and they really started to see, okay, this guy actually does know what he's doing, even though they had prejudged me when they first saw me, like he probably doesn't. So the biggest thing here, Charlene, to answer your question, is even as you get into that leadership position, people have to know that your main objective has nothing to do with you, even though it does, because especially in a business sense, like you in your situation, if you didn't have that team performing, you would have lost your leadership role. They would have replaced you with somebody else. You would have got fired if the team didn't perform. But you understand this is kind of an indirect way of doing it. Your performance is based on the performance of the team. So if you just pour yourself into the team and focus on the team doing great, they'll all perform at a high level. You make sure they understand what's the reason that we're all here. How is each one of your performances going to help the whole team? The team will do better. Everybody's happy because everybody's getting their individual whatever they get, because they don't have to lead anybody. And because everybody else is doing good, the team looks good, you look good, the company wins, you win, the government gets a cut of your check, everybody wins. Win, win, win.
Love it. Hello, we just got a question from Billy on YouTube saying, is this live? Yes.
Yes,
guys,
Billy, this is live. It is 2:20 p.m. Eastern, December 13th, 2021. Yes, Billy, this is live.
Thank you for doing proof of life there, Dre. You're a good hostage negotiator. Step one. And yes, this is live, guys. Questions, comments, anything will be featured on this show. So I am looking at, we're looking at YouTube and Facebook, and in my case, also LinkedIn. So any channel you're seeing Dre or me from, you can drop your comment on whatever platform you're on. And the thing is, what we're using here is kind of nice. Dre's got his own following. And so do I in very different ways. So, Dre, we're mixing our worlds. We don't know where our comment's going to come from. Could be people that know me or people that know you. But I will tell you that no matter what, these people are pretty high performers if they're following you and if they're following me. So I think they'd be interested in these topics today. So back to your point to me was, yes, you are correct. Especially when I was in the leadership role, my team was performing. If they weren't, then I would have lost my job. In fact, that was a condition in me getting the job to begin with.
Right.
What I found one of the more challenging things were, and I've since then, I think, worked it out. But back then, the more challenging part was, how to find that line between I'm a leader and we have a job to do, to not just plowing over people that also still want to do a good job. In your example, coaches and players. Well, just because the player is pushing back on the coach doesn't necessarily mean the player doesn't want to be a good player. So maybe it just comes down to good old-fashioned communication skills. So I like what this is, what people want from their coaches and bosses and leaders.
Right.
Would that be one of them? Good communication skills.
Absolutely. And it actually leads into my third point. And I'm going to tell you one more thing on that second point.
Yeah.
It's, yes, of course, as a leader, you want to have the best interests of your team in mind, but it's not really about what you say your best interests are, or even what you think your best interests are. It's about what does your team feel your best interests are. They have to believe by your actions and by your energy that your number one priority is them and their success. Even if you think your number one priority is their success, but they think your number one priority is your success, then there's a conflict there. And that conflict of interest, it's what they perceive matters more than what you are saying or even what you think. So you have to show them in such a way that you sell them on the idea that you all being successful is the most important thing to me. They have to feel that. It's not something you say, it's something you have to prove. So
they got to know you care, isn't
That's
it?
Right.
You're right. Yeah, they got to actually know you care. Not just that you're trying to get them to do the job, but they got to know that you actually care about their ability to do so, and you care about their experience that you can create for them to make that happen.
That's right.
That makes sense.
Right. Okay. So going into this third point, so you were asking here how you were saying in the way you communicate. Tell me that question one more time to make sure I got it right.
The way that you communicate. The question that I had was, the challenge that I had was, how can a leader communicate to their team that, yes, I have a job to do as a leader and the team has a job to do, but how can we get on the same page and still get the job done without plowing over the team?
Well, as the leader, you do have a position of authority. So you have to be clear in how you're doing things. And human beings, I don't care if they're 45 years old or 5 years old, we respond to consistency. And especially with the leader, you have to be consistent. Anyone here who has kids, and everyone here has been a kid, the best, I think one of the success traits as a parent or as a boss or a coach or a leader is you must be consistent in the rules. You got to be consistent in your enforcement, consistent in how you have people do things, consistent in the way you follow up. It has to be consistency there, because if you're inconsistent, then people are going to start noticing that. They will notice it very quickly on a subtle level. They'll notice it and they will start flouting whatever rules you have because they know you're not consistent in upholding them. So, for example, I'm using sports as an example because this is what I was thinking of when I really thought of this subject. I remember for the Miami Heat down here basketball team, there's a guy named Dwayne Wade. He used to play for the team, a Hall of Fame player. I don't think he's in yet, but he'll be in the Hall of Fame. And there was a game I remember watching, and Dwayne Wade drives to the basket. He shoots the ball. He missed. He felt like he got fouled, but the referee did not call foul. So Dwayne Wade, he's on the ground. He gets up and he's looking at the ref, and he's like chirping at the referee. But while he's talking to the ref, the game is continuing to play, and the other team is going the other way with the ball. And the other team ends up scoring a basket while Dwayne Wade, his teammates are playing 4-on-5 because he's down there talking to the ref while the rest of the team is playing defense. And I remember the announcer during the game, he's saying, hey, as a coach, the coach of the Miami Heat, this guy named Eric Spoelstra, he said Eric Spoelstra has to call Dwayne Wade out for what he just did, because if any other player on the team did that and made the team play 4-on-5 and gave up an easy bucket, then he will call that player out. If you can't call out the superstar, you can't call out anybody else. And that's one of the big things in sports, is that whoever the star player of the team is, the coach has to be able to call that guy out. And when everybody else sees that the star can get called out, then they know that they can get called out. I'll give you another example. I just heard this guy talking about this on a podcast the other day. Tom Brady. We all know Tom Brady. All right. When he played for the New England Patriots for many years, one year this guy was in training camp with the Patriots. His name was Randy Moss. He's a Hall of Fame wide receiver. And during training camp, they were doing a drill, and Tom Brady throws a pass, and it was a poorly thrown pass. So the ball bounced a couple times, didn't hit the receiver. Bill Belichick, who's the coach of the Patriots, he just cussed Tom Brady up one side and down the other side in front of the whole team. And he said to Tom Brady, look, I could find a fucking quarterback from that local high school team who could throw a better pass than what you just threw there, Tom. And he was not joking. He was dead serious. Cussed Tom Brady out in front of the whole team. Tom Brady's maybe the greatest football player of all time, arguably. And when that drill was over and the players were moving from one station to the next, Randy Moss, who was new to the Patriots at the time, this is his first year with the team. Now, everybody knew Tom Brady's reputation. He already had a few Super Bowls by this point. Randy Moss says to his other teammates, he was like, wait a minute, Bill Belichick talks to Tom Brady like that? Yeah. And the other players on the team who had been there before said to Randy Moss, yeah, he talks to him just like that. And because he talks to him like that, we all understand that he'll talk to us like that. The standard applies to everybody. And that is what anybody who follows the NFL knows. They call it the Patriot way. There's a certain way that things get run there. It doesn't matter what you have next to your name, what credentials, what statistics, how many championships. Everybody is held to the exact same standard. And when people see that, they respect it. And everybody knows that they have to fall in line. And it starts with the guy at the top. If the guy at the top can't get called out, then nobody else can get called out. Or actually, other people can get called out. The problem is people will start to resent each other. Like, all right, I made a mistake. You called me out in front of everybody, but this guy made a mistake. The superstar made a mistake. You didn't say anything. You act like it didn't happen. And then people just stop respecting it. And then you get factions within the team. When you get factions within the team, I don't care how talented they are not going to perform at their best because not everybody is of the same mind. And that starts with the leader. So the leader has to establish everybody, this is the standard, and everybody's going to be held to the standard. Now, different leaders do it different ways because I've seen other leaders say, well, look, I got different rules for different players. All right, some players are better than others. I'm going to let this guy get away with something. This guy's not. I was on teams where coaches did that, and they were explicit about it. And what happened on those teams? We had factions. We had people who didn't like other people. We had this clique over here, this clique over here. We had talent, but we never performed up to our talent simply because the leader wasn't willing to hold everybody to the same standard. And people notice that. Like, people notice it. Even if you say that's what you're going to do and then you go do it, people don't like that. Human beings, people are not stupid. So you got to hold everybody to a certain standard. And I prefer the Patriot standard. That, all right, if he can cuss out Tom Brady, he's going to cuss me out. I like that. I prefer that. That's
okay,
the way I
fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough. Matthew, it's good to have you here as well. It's good to see you.
What's up, Matthew? Let me give one more example here.
Yes,
and
please.
We got to make sure we watch time, Charlene, because we're just only third point. Shaquille O'Neal. Everybody knows Shaq. He played for the LA Lakers for a good part of his career, won a bunch of championships, Hall of Famer. And in the year 1999, they got a new coach, a guy named Phil Jackson. And Phil Jackson had coached Michael Jordan in the Chicago Bulls. Now, Phil had already won 6 championships in Chicago. Now he's coming to coach the Lakers. That group did not have any championships. And Shaq and Kobe, they had no championships. And Shaq talked about this in his book, that in training camp that year, because the Lakers went on to win championships the next 3 years. The first 3 years Phil Jackson was coaching, they won the championship all 3 years. In that training camp, the Lakers players were kind of barking back at Phil Jackson when he would say something. He would kind of critique them on some little detail and say, hey, you're not doing this right. You need to do this right. And he was coaching them, basically what he was supposed to do, coaching them. And Phil Jackson blew the whistle because he didn't like the way that some of these Laker players were kind of talking back to him. Because, mind you, this is the guy with all the championships. These guys don't have championships. So Phil Jackson said to them, he said, hey, check this out, everybody. If Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen can listen to me and everything that I say, you motherfuckers shouldn't be saying shit to me.
I love it.
And Shaq put this in his book. And he said after Phil Jackson said that, nobody questioned him again, and they went on to win the next 3 championships. That's the level of consistency that a leader has to have with the group, and they had to set that tone from the beginning.
Makes sense. You know what, Jerry? I was just going to text this to you, but fuck it, let's just do it now. I'm very much listening to what you're saying. I'm engaged in this conversation. I will also, in full disclosure for you and everybody else that's watching us, we'll just tell you, Dre, can we rip the Band-Aid off here? Some context, because we're combining our worlds here. Some of my contacts that don't know you, but that do know me, are like, okay. We've had this question before, Dre, so let's just talk about it. How the hell did you and Dre get connected? There is a disconnect here. So let's just talk about our origin story. Why are we doing this together?
All right, yeah, let's do that. So we might not get through all 6 here today. Full
Might
disclosure.
not too. I hate to do it to you, but there's a lot of questions.
No, it's all right. It's all
distracting.
right. I got plenty of material. So first of all, hello
Yeah.
to Charlene's contacts, whoever you all are who is watching this. Now, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Drake Baldwin. Background as a pro athlete. Played 9 years of pro basketball overseas. I created this whole brand and framework and business called Work on Your Game. It's all about taking the mental tools to help you get to the top 1% in the sports world and then translating those tools over to the business world and into everyday life. I've written 29 books. All these books you see behind me, these are my books. These are not anybody else's books, all up here on the shelf. Now, how Charlene and I connected when was it? What year is it? It's 2021. So in early 2020, it's crazy, right? Doesn't seem like it's
I know it went fast, right?
In early 2020, I joined a business coaching program of a guy by the name of Alex Sharfin. Y'all don't know him, that's okay. And that program is all about helping entrepreneurs kind of just get their shit together, organizing their business. It wasn't about how to sell anything. It's about organizing your business. So I joined that program and I'm in there, getting my shit together like everybody else in the program. At some point, Charlene joined the program. I think I was in it before you a little bit,
Yep,
Charlene.
Yep.
All right, Charlene came in a few months later and and they had calls every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday every week. So it would be the same group of people. It was about 10 to 15 of us who would be on every call. We would always be on all the calls. And for several months, I would see Charlene on the calls. We didn't know each other. We never had any private conversations, not really. We would just be on the calls together for, what was that, maybe 4 or 5 months, Charlene?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. But I didn't know her. I didn't know anything about her. She didn't know anything about me except what we saw and heard on the calls. And then in February of this year, that program ended. They decided to end that program. And Charlene had been on the calls and she had taken a liking to the group of people there. And it was a solid group. It was a bunch of people in the program, but it was a solid group of people who always were on the calls. So Charlene reached out to the consistent people who are always in, maybe 15, 20 of us. And she said, hey, how about we all create our own group? I mean, we don't have them anymore, but we know each other. Why would we just let this dissolve? Why don't we create our own group? Now, I thought that was a great idea. And Charlene was the person who had kind of the people connecting skills and the willingness to want to connect everybody. So she created a mastermind program of a bunch of the hangovers from that group. And we had a mastermind together from February of this year until when did your mastermind end, Charlene?
It ended
September?
In October. September. Yeah, September. No, wait. It was October. Ended October.
October.
I didn't want to charge for November.
Okay, so
yeah.
All right. So we had this mastermind group led by Charlene from February through October of this year. Then Charlene decided to end her mastermind. She had other business stuff that she was focused on doing. And actually, I got to back up in the story. This is around July of this year. Happened in July of this year. We had a mastermind call in Charlene's mastermind. Now I have a mastermind. Charlene's in mine, so we kind of flip places. But in July of this year, I posed a challenge. This is a mastermind call. That's what we do. We share our challenges. My challenge was, hey, I got a book coming out in August. That is my newest book right here called The Third Day. You can see it over my shoulder as well. So this book was about to come out. And I said, well, I got this book coming out. I'm trying to think of some ways because I already know how to run ads and marketing and send emails. I got an email list. I do a lot of social media, all that stuff. And I posed the challenge to the group. What can I do to kind of spread my message a little bit more? And Charlene said, well, Dre, why don't you do a live in-person event? I mean, you've done speaking gigs before. You've done 4 TEDx talks. I mean, you know how to speak. You have all this content. Why don't you just do your own live event? I said, that's a good idea. It's something I have thought about, but I don't know how to put together the logistics of a live event. I'm sure I could figure it out. I'm smart, but it's a lot more work. Is all this other stuff in addition to being the face of the event. I don't want to do all of that work. So I don't want to do all that extra. Do you know anyone who can do that? And Charlene said, well, hey, I can do it. So Charlene and I partnered together and we did the first Work on Your Game Live, which was this past August here in Miami. And that one went well. And now we are doing the second Work on Your Game Live, which is going to be in January, again, here in Miami. And this Wednesday is the deadline to get your ticket to that event at workonyourgame.live. That is the website. So for all of Charlene's contacts who are watching this, nice to meet you. This is how we came together, and that's how we know each other. Does that answer the question, Charlene?
That did. That answered the question. I really appreciate that. I got to add this. Dre is such a gentleman, and his answer was completely factual and accurate. On my side, it's hilarious because Dre, I work with a lot of nerdy people, a lot of people who weren't cool in high school, and certainly a lot of people who don't know me to be the kind of person that knows an athlete turned mindset coach, especially a basketball player. And they are making fun of me because I am 5 feet tall. And so there's some jokes going around there too. How'd you hook up with a basketball player, somebody that must be as tall as Dre and as cool as that? So I'm saying that because they'll get a kick out of that, and I thought you would too.
Yeah, I'm 6'4". So what is
Yeah.
that?
Together
12,
we
16
do
inches?
look funny
Yeah.
together. We got to take a lot more pictures though, just to put it out there. Just why not?
We got some
So-
pictures from the event. You got those pictures, right?
Yeah, I'll share that. I'll share that after.
Okay.
I will. So
Great.
now with that in mind, I do appreciate that. And anyone else listening that already follows Dre, thank you for that side story. Although Dre, you got a question too. Who is she, coach? So I think some of your people were like, who is that? So Dre and I have partnered up. I'm his event manager for Work on Your Game Live. The reason that I'm doing this is because his event was damn good in August. And I knew that if I was going to go to an event, it would be his event, because Dre is not doing the typical thing where he just wants to sell the tickets, get the money, rah you up. I am not a big fan of motivational speakers, and Dre is not a motivational speaker. Although I'm aware that some of Dre's followers might think that he is. I will tell you that you are wrong. He is not. He is a tactical thinker, and he is the person that can actually help you put your strategy together. We're doing this live today. We're going to do another one tomorrow. And we're doing another one on Wednesday. Why? Because you need to get to the Work on Your Game Live event in January. We only have a sample right now that we can share with you of what Dre knows. But if you actually want a step-by-step personalized plan to apply to your professional life and your personal life, there is no better than Dre. And so that's why I'm here. I don't need to partner with Dre on this stuff. In fact, true story here, Dre is not paying me to do these events with him. He is not paying me or charging me to do this. I'm doing this because what he's doing is the right thing to do. And I want to partner up with him because I know that he can actually help you. So with that in mind, let's get back to the actual topic, Dre. So the actual topic, the next thing is, where do we leave off? We have, oh, no, I had a question for you. Okay, how would a leader actually lead somebody like Shaquille O'Neal? Now, you know I'm not into sports ball, but I freaking love Shaq. I love him because he's a big old teddy bear. He was always funny, and I always felt so bad for him. He'd be playing his games, and I'd watch him. My husband's a huge Laker fan, so I would watch him, like, on occasion, just tumble into the crowd and break his toe again. It would be like a big old tower climbing down on people. I felt bad for them. And he would get back up like a giant teddy bear. But he was so good at what he did. And I could tell that his team really loved and respected him. How do you coach a guy like that? How do you lead a guy like that? I don't think he needed it. Do you?
That he needed coaching?
Yeah.
Absolutely, he did. Everybody can use coaching. And the better somebody is, usually the more they want to be coached. And that's often the reason why they're as good as they are, is because they have been coached. The good thing about, as opposed to entrepreneurship with athletes, is that we all have coaches by default. It's just a default of being an athlete that there's going to be a coach or a manager or a trainer or somebody who is showing you how to do the thing. Even if you're doing an individual sport, there's someone who is teaching you and helping you perfect your technique. And if you play a team sport, there's always going to be a coach. There's always going to be somebody in charge. And one of the things that a good coach does within an organization, especially in a sports team, but even in any kind of business, is they have to elevate leaders from within, because the boss can't always be the one doling out the discipline and checking people and letting somebody know, hey, you need to step it up, or getting everybody going. There has to be somebody from within the ranks also that ascends to kind of a leadership position. So this actually leads into my fourth point. Good coaches always elevate leaders from within. They always find somebody from within, and they bring that person up to be that leader inside of the group. And it doesn't even have to be that they have any kind of designation. Like they don't have to be making more money. They don't have to be given any assistant title or anything like that. It just means that the boss or the leader in a strong organization does not have to lord over the operations in order for the group to continue performing at a high level. They don't have to dominate the situation. They find leaders amongst the ranks, and they empower those people with the authority to call everybody else out the exact same way. So speaking of the Lakers, for example, there was a guy who played for them named Derek Fisher. You probably don't know who Derek Fisher is, but he's one of the prime examples I'm talking about, that he was a role player in the NBA. He's the guy who became a head coach after he played basketball. Shaq didn't become a coach. Kobe wasn't a coach. Magic Johnson tried coaching. He was terrible. And Derek Fisher is the guy who became a coach. He was a role player. He's the guy that most basketball, if you're not a basketball fan, you don't know who Derek Fisher is. But he's the guy who became a coach. And he was a guy when he was in college, his coach said, because Derek Fisher was one of those leaders within the team. He was actually one of the leaders on the Lakers, even though he was far from the most talented player.
Oh, no kidding.
But when he was in college, his coach would sometimes call him aside during practice and say, hey, Derek, because he was the best player on his college team. He would say, hey, Derek, get the rest of your teammates in gear and get them playing hard, or we're going to be in this gym practicing all day. In other words, in sports, if the team isn't practicing hard, the punishment is the coach makes you keep practicing until you do. So
really? Oh, that's brutal. Okay.
Yeah, so the coach is basically telling Derek Fisher, get these guys to play hard, and if they do, then practice will be over. But if they don't play hard, we're going to keep practicing until they do play hard. But instead of the coach yelling at the team and berating them the way most people think that a leader is supposed to do, he went to Derek Fisher, the player, and told him to do it. You get these guys going because I don't want to yell it. I don't want to keep doing it because players will eventually tune out any boss that keeps doing the same thing over and over again in that way, that negative type of way. So it was finding that leader within the group and knowing he could go to him. And later on, when Shaquille O'Neal was gone from the Lakers and Kobe was the main guy, the leader of that team was Derek Fisher. Kobe was the best player, but the leader was Derek Fisher. He was the guy, if you ever watch a sports game and the players huddle up real quick, the person who does the talking, that was never Kobe wasn't the guy talking. Derek Fisher was the guy talking.
Interesting.
And that's the leader within the group.
Okay, now that actually makes a lot more sense than I expected on the athletic side. Now that is my world, usually because, on my side, you got to know, you do have to know office politics. If you're going to be a good leader, you have to understand how to read the room, how to read the people, and know who even under you, who in your team, and usually it's not the most vocal one, actually, but who in your team actually has the influence.
Absolutely.
And if you can get that person on your side and help them understand, even if they're not the official team lead, if you help them understand what your gameplay is, what your goal is, then they actually will typically take it and run with it from there to sell the other team, and you don't have to. That happens in office politics all the time. Just didn't know what happened in athletics. But it makes sense, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And even before that, when Kobe and Shaq were teammates, and there were times where they weren't getting along. And they'd be saying stuff about each other in the media and all this stuff. There was another guy on the team. This guy name was Brian Shaw. And I'm sure you don't know who that is. Brian Shaw was another role player. He was not a bum, but he definitely wasn't a superstar. Probably never made the All-Star game. But when Kobe and Shaq had their differences, Brian Shaw was the guy who could go to Shaq and talk to him, get his side of things. Then he could go to Kobe, talk to him, get his side of things. And he's the one who could kind of negotiate the peace between both of these superstars. He was that politician in the locker room. And guess what Brian Shaw became after he retired? He became a coach. He's still a coach to this very day. So it's those guys who can kind of play the middle. Those are the ones who become the guys who can lead because they understand, they know how to talk to the star. They know how to talk to the guy at the end of the bench, and they know how to be the guy in the middle. It's the guys who have only seen one pole of the situation. It's hard for them to be a leader because they have no way of relating to someone at the opposite end of the spectrum.
That I have seen on the worst end. Actually, I've been on the receiving end of that, where I have had an issue with some leaders. They were my bosses earlier in my career, but they weren't great bosses and they were terrible leaders. And the reason for it was they were so good at what they did. So say it was a financial person or somebody who was just really good at one thing. They wouldn't know how to communicate with me, so they would just say whatever they said. My problem was I have a problem with authority. And I think a lot of people do. I think a lot more people have a problem with authority than they're willing to admit. I just think that it's scary for them to admit it. But I did. And my problem was just because you're my boss doesn't mean that I have to agree with or even understand what you say. In fact, you're not even going to get my buy-in until I respect you. And I can't start to respect you until I know you respect me. And then we can build trust and then you can influence me. But those bosses, actually, Dre, I got fired twice, and I'm convinced the reason I got fired in both situations is because the boss thought that I was a bad employee, but it wasn't. I could have been a really good person for them, but they didn't have the same language that I needed them to have. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and that's why you need the conduit. Sometimes you need that conduit between the boss and the rest of the group. And some coaches, actually in most situations, the leader or the head person, the boss, owner, whoever, there are certain people in the group that they can talk to directly and communicate clearly and everything's good. But there are other people that they can't really, for whatever reason, they just can't get across to that person. That's why you need a conduit. You need somebody else who can talk to that person. If it's not you can't go directly to them. You can go to this person and they can go to that person and get the point across. And if you notice something that's happened in sports over the last decade plus, that the coaching staffs have exploded. They've multiplied. It used to be, you watch the basketball game, there'd be one coach and maybe two assistant coaches, maybe three. Nowadays, you watch a basketball game, there's like one coach, there's 5 assistant coaches sitting next to him, and then there's like 8 assistants sitting behind them. Like all the coaches can't even sit in the front row because there's so many of them. The coaching staffs in basketball now is like 13 people, where it used to be like 3 guys. I remember I went to a basketball game, University of Miami, down in Coral Gables. I went to a game. They were playing Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech had more coaches than they had players. They had like 12 coaches, and they had like 10 players. But that's how it is now.
It's a lot of bureaucracy.
I don't think it's necessary, Charlene. But at the same time, that's those guys' full-time job. So I'm not going to hate on them for having a job. But that is how it is now. Is that these, especially in basketball, that's the sport I watch the most. The coaching staffs have gotten so big. You got so many coaches now, at least when they can afford it. That's at the D1 level. Like I have a friend who's a coach at the D2. He has 3 assistants. But if he had the budget, he would have 12. Right. And so that's how it is that because each player might not be able to talk directly to the coach, but they can talk to one of those assistants.
It's a lot of telephone, though. It seems like, okay, there's another side to this then. Yeah. With that in mind, there's another side to this. I mean, good leadership is one thing, but too many leaders in place on the business side, that is too much bureaucracy. That would be a game of telephone. And that, I feel like, is how you then create gossip, clicks, etc. If people can split off too much and they're not forced to learn each other, I've seen groups and businesses fall to pieces as a result of that. How does that work in the sports world?
How does it work in the sports world? Well, that coach goes back to Bill Belichick, Phil Jackson, is that command and control. The coach has to make clear from the beginning with their own staff, this is how it works. This is the chain of command. I don't know if you saw the TV show The Wire on HBO.
I've heard about it. Yeah.
Okay, but on that show, or you saw The Sopranos.
Yes. Yeah, of course.
Okay. So it's the chain of command. All right. Before something happens, you know who you need to go. Everybody knows who they answer to. And everybody knows who they answer to. And the big boss, we know that before any big move gets done, it got to be okayed by the big boss. So you don't do anything without an okay from the proper channels. That's the command and control. So that is something that the boss has to establish from the beginning. This is how it goes. This is how things get handled. If this kind of decision needs to be made, it needs to go at least this high up the chain before anybody can give an okay. And if somebody violates, here's how it's going to get handled. And everybody needs to know exactly what that is.
I like that. Even on the military side, I grew up as an Air Force brat, as you know, but not everybody that is watching does. Chain of command was a real thing. You know what? You actually just helped me to realize that chain of command for athletics and military would apply to business, of course, if the boss in the business knew how to establish those levels of communication. For example, I just ran into a problem with my business where one of my subordinates, damn good at what she does, made an executive decision without me, and she needed to make that decision with me. She takes the stance of apologizing later, not asking for permission, which I love. It's why I hired her. But I needed her to ask for permission on that one. So how does a boss establish those kind of boundaries?
You make it clear from the beginning and you spell it out. You tell them, all right, I want you to make decisions now and just tell me what you did within these parameters. These are the areas where you're allowed to make your own decisions. Then tell me what you did, explain to me why it made sense, and then we'll talk about it. Anything above this line, you come to me before you make a decision.
Perfect.
And make it clear, just like that, so that they know exactly how far they can go, where they do have some freedom and leeway, and where they don't. So everybody knows what needs to go up the chain and where they can just make a decision on their own.
Love it. All right, let's drum up some chat here. That's what I'm working on right now. What is your next point, Dre? Let's dive into that while I get the chat going.
Sure, and I'll give another example. When I used to work at this gym called Bally Total Fitness. It was the last job I had before I started my pro basketball career. And I got promoted because I was such a good salesperson. I remember I was working in a location in Northwest Philadelphia, which is where I'm from, Mount Airy, and I got promoted to the location down in South Philly. Now, I became an assistant manager, so I got a little bit of a pay bump. And I went down there with my head manager because my head manager, he got promoted too to the South Philly location. And he said, well, if I'm going to the South Philly location, I'm going to bring one of my best salespeople with me so I can kind of bring some of my own culture with me. It's kind of like a CEO brings their executive assistant or their vice president with them. So he brought me with him. And I remember the first meeting that he had with the new staff. Nobody knows him. And he's just laying down how things are going to go, how things are going to work. And he said, if any of you ever need a close, and that's what we call it in the sales world, like we're selling gym memberships. So if you're in there with a prospect and they're interested, but you can't close them, before you let them leave, you go get somebody to help you close them. And that would be a manager. So he said, if any of you need help with the close, you call Dre. And everybody in the room turned and looked at me. Now they didn't know me because this is my first day there too. Yeah. It was the first time I was in that position because I didn't have that role at the previous location. Wow. That was my first time having that position, but I think he saw it in me that I was capable of handling it because I was his best salesperson. So he said, anybody needs a close, you call Dre. And everybody looked at me like, all right, is this guy good? But he was establishing, the point is he was establishing this is how it works. So he was giving that chain of command.
Okay, that makes sense. That completely makes sense. All right, so guys, get your questions featured on the show. Post it, and I will feature it. I will tell you right now, we are cutting off in 8 minutes. Right now, if you ask a question of Dre, he can give you advice as if you hired him as your own coach without paying the cost of doing so. And trust me, he's not cheap. By nobody charges for coaching. So get it in now. If you're listening and watching now, if you have anything on your mind about what we're talking about today, post your question. We'll get you featured. In the meantime, while we're waiting on that, Dre, what's your next point? Let's talk in the next one.
Yes, and everybody remember, we're doing these because I am promoting. We're doing this on purpose for a reason. Work on Your Game Live. Wednesday is the cutoff date to get your ticket. That event is here in Miami, Florida, January 21st, 22nd. You get your tickets at workonyourgame.live. Wednesday, 11:59 p.m. Eastern is the cutoff date, and there will be no tickets sold after that moment. So I'm gonna skip the 5th point, and I'm gonna go to point number 6 so we can get all 6 in. Is the leader, whoever they are. They make it clear who they are and what they're about, whether you agree or not. Because here's the thing that people got to understand. All humans are different. So if you were to listen to me talking to my team and telling them how things are going to go, that conversation is going to sound different than Charlene talking to her team and how things are going to go. Or any of you who's watching this talking to your team. There is no right or wrong way necessarily. What I'm sharing here are some principles that you can violate at your own risk, but there's no right or wrong way to lead. You have to let people know who you are from the beginning. But one thing I will say is that you need to establish it from the beginning. Do not wait. Don't let a few weeks go by and then realize, hey, I kind of wasn't being myself. So now I have to let people know who I really am, because the longer you wait to establish that, the harder it's going to be. Because as they say, you never get a second chance to make your first impression. One of my college coaches, he told me when I got recruited by him, he said, I play favorites, meaning one person's going to make a mistake and I'm going to upgrade them and cuss them out and call them out in front of everybody. Then another person's going to make the same mistake and I'm going to act like I didn't see it. And I don't like that, but I respect the fact that he was honest about it because he was telling the truth. Because when I got there, that's exactly what he did. I would make a mistake and he would pull me out of the game. Then somebody else make the same mistake and he wouldn't say anything. They played the whole game. And I had a meeting with him. No, I was not a favorite. I've never been a favorite in sports. I was never a favorite.
Yeah.
Fair. So I remember going to him during the season and saying, I pointed out to him and he said, yeah, I told you. He said, yeah, that's the way it's going to be. But I respect the fact that he was honest about it. Even though I didn't like what he was doing, I like the fact that he said that's what he was going to do and he did it. And we all, as humans, we all have a sixth sense for bullshit. And even if I disagree with a person, I'll respect the fact that they're being honest about whatever it is that they're doing, even if I don't like it. What I don't respect is when someone does some bullshit and then tries to explain it away as if it's not what it is. Just tell me what it is. And this is something that on social media, I see people doing this all the time, especially these days where people are changing definitions of terms and phrases just so it can fit their narrative. Listen, just be honest about what you're about. Be about it. If you're about it, just be about it. I don't care what it is as long as you're honest. If you try to lie to me about it, that's when I'm not going to like it. And that's when I don't respect it. So as a leader, it's the exact same thing.
No, I love it. That makes complete sense. I love it. So actually, overall, I think sometimes when I see, we got to talk about bad leadership in just a minute. We've got a question here that I like it. So here's a question right here. What was the hardest part about your come up? What was the main thing that helped you establish self-discipline? Great question. I love it.
What's going on, Julie? I think Julie just texted me a couple days ago. I think I seen you in my text the other day, Julie. I think that's the same person. I noticed by the spelling of
Sweet.
your name.
Hopefully
So
we can get Julie to come and work on your game live. Go ahead.
yes, hopefully so. So the hardest part about my come up. So Julie, I had two different careers. So I'll answer both questions. My hardest part about my come up in basketball as a pro athlete was really just getting myself seen, heard, and known. It was the marketing side of it, just getting myself out there, because there are about 5,000 jobs worldwide for professional basketball players, which sounds like a lot, but it's really not when you consider that there are probably about 1 million men in America who think they can play pro basketball. So that hardest part was just marketing and getting myself out there, getting seen, heard, and known. But once I understood that, I knew that was my main focus. I knew once I got on the court and played, a lot of players can play, but a lot of players don't know how to sell themselves. So the biggest thing in basketball was selling yourself. As far as on the entrepreneurship side, man, there have been a lot of parts, and I feel like I'm still on the come up. I don't feel like I've quote unquote made it in business, even though some people can look at me and feel like I have. But the hardest part for me in the business world was, first of all, just establishing that, yes, I did play sports, but I do have some actual substance to go behind this. I'm not just a basketball player just giving you some mumbo jumbo about motivation. I have some actual meat on the bone when I start talking. So I had to establish that. That wasn't actually that hard, but once I got that down, having to get it out there to the world. So actually the marketing job has always been the biggest thing. It's always the marketing, in that in basketball, they say it's one thing to be able to shoot, Julie, is another thing to be able to get your shot. A lot of people can shoot, but a lot of people can't get their shot. If people understand that metaphor. So that's always been the biggest thing.
Love it. All right, we've got a comment here from El Nazir over at YouTube here. Not a Patriots fan, but they're doing well. Do you agree with that? Are you a Patriots fan?
Yeah, I think I heard they were pretty well. I don't follow football that close, but I think they're in first place in their division, so I think they're gonna make the playoffs. I like Belichick. I just like that. That story that I told. That's the part about the Patriots that I like. I'm not a football guy, but just having that discipline and that structure, and that everybody understands this is how it works in this organization, and nobody is above reproach. That's what I like about them.
All right, I'm just putting this out here now because I want to reward this interaction. If they keep interacting, Dre, we might have to hang out for a few more minutes. Let's just see. I like these comments so far. All right. In the meantime, let's actually discuss a little bit more in detail and a little slower. Oh, wait. No, we got another one. Keep them coming, guys. How about this one?
All right. Do I think Kyrie is going to hoop again this season? Charlene, do you know who Kyrie is?
My husband does. He has mentioned his name. I'm so sorry I do not. I don't do sports ball, guys. So that's not why Dre likes.
All right. So I'll tell y'all something about Kyrie. All right. So Kyrie is a NBA player. He plays for the Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn is obviously in New York. And in New York, you cannot perform in any type of health facility without a vaccine. Okay. Kyrie does not have the vaccine. So even though he's on salary to make like $30 million this year, he has not played a single game, because he has not gotten the jab. We can't even call it a vaccine, because if it was a vaccine, then if you got it, then you can't get the virus.
Wait.
Not actually
he was the guy. Wasn't he the guy that actually said no? Didn't I just post about him recently? Was he that one that I didn't agree he should have to be in that position to begin with? We had to make a decision to get the vaccine or play. And they wouldn't let him, but technically they could have, because they're not in New York. Right?
Well, they're in Brooklyn. He could play road games, but they told him he can't play any games.
I remember this guy now. That's why he was bitching about him. Yeah. So what's going on with him? Do you think he is going to hoop again?
Do I think he's going to hoop again? I saw a story. I think this is the reason maybe why this is being asked, because I saw a story on ESPN that said there are rumors, who knows what that means, that the Brooklyn team feels confident that he might play this year, but they didn't give a reason why. So that may either be A, he's going to get the vaccine, B, New York is going to relax the vaccine mandates, or C,
not happening.
He's going to get traded to a different team, at which he doesn't have to have, because only two cities you have to have it to play at home: Oakland and Oakland is in the San Francisco Bay Area, and New York. So the Knicks, the Nets, and the Warriors. So 3 teams. But any other city, you don't have to have the vaccine to play basketball. So it could be one of those. Do I think he's going to play? I hope he plays, because Kyrie is a very good player and he has a ton of fans. And I know he wants to play basketball, but I respect the fact that he's standing on his principle. That I respect. Even though I would want him to play. If I'm a fan of Brooklyn Nets, I'm like, shit, we need Kyrie Irving. He's one of the best players in the league.
Yeah.
But I respect the fact that he's standing on his principle. What I don't respect is not about Kyrie, but about the rest of the players in the NBA, is that they all had so much to say in the summer of social justice, but they all been so quiet on this, while their own guy who's he is one of the executive members of the Players Association. This guy got kicked off his own team for half those games that he's eligible to play in. His own team said you can't play unless you get the vaccine, and nobody has spoken up on his behalf. That I don't respect about the rest of the NBA.
I didn't like that either. That's why I remember. Yeah, my husband and I got into a conversation about Kyrie because he said the same thing. He feels as though his team left him out high and dry. He feels as though
the whole NBA left him out high and dry. It's not just his team. The whole NBA. All these guys are so outspoken. None of them have said a damn word since that happened.
Okay, fair enough. Well, my husband's particular problem was, and you should know this. I should put this out here. He is a white guy, and in this day and age, somebody in his position can't really say this too easily. But he's saying he finds it interesting that a lot of the NBA players last year in the summer of social justice had so much to say about what was going on and what is wrong, etc. This year, they see a guy like this, and no one says anything on his behalf. That didn't set well with my husband. He thinks that they kind of betrayed him on that one. What are your thoughts?
Well, they're sheep. They say what is acceptable. It was acceptable to be anti-cop and anti-American last summer. It's not acceptable to be anti-jab. So that's why they're quiet. Everybody can see that by now.
Well, from a leadership perspective, then I think that was the biggest issue, is that at least his coaches or somebody of leadership could have had his back a little bit more, but neither here nor there, I suppose, at this point.
We'll see. It's still time.
We'll see. All right. Billy's got a question. Hopefully you have something more about this to say than I do, but here is his question. Bucks or Fins?
Bucks or Fins? Well, the Fins are the Miami Dolphins, and I don't follow football that close, but I just did a keynote 2 weeks ago, and I was asking the people in the audience, it was in Fort Lauderdale, how are the Dolphins doing? They said they're okay, they're getting better. And Tampa Bay has Tom Brady, and they're a little bit better, so I'm going to go with the Bucks.
All right.
I'm going to go with the Bucks.
It is. Billy, you got your answer. You want to make a bet, Dre?
No,
with me.
I do not bet on things I do not have knowledge of.
Very, very fair. All right, very cool. We have somebody who is late to the show, but I'm glad he joined us. What is that? Matisha? How do I say that, Dre?
Mattia.
I
think it's a Slavic name. I think.
Mattia, welcome. And don't worry, Mattia, I pulled you up here for a reason. We are pulling live Comic Con. We're going to wrap up in just a few minutes. But I want to let you know, that's Drake Steiner's going on in the background. Tomorrow we're going to be live, and Wednesday we're going to be live. 2 different topics for each day. The reason we're doing it is we're going to be live in Miami in January. So don't worry about being late today. This recording will be available, but tomorrow you should join us live. You're going to get an opportunity to get coached by Dre or answer any questions that you want him to answer live right with you, as if you were to hire him yourself without the official investment into doing so. So for today, though, let's actually go back into why we are here, Dre, because I think it's time for us to do that and start wrapping probably. So
yes.
Well, let's see.
Yes. So are you going to talk or I'm talking?
Yeah, I want to talk on this one because I'm so excited. This is where I'm excited. Look, you guys are talking about your sports ball shit. You know I can't help. But this I can help with. All right. So Dre and I are both doing Work on Your Game live in January. And this one is a 2-day event. You can finally get the missing leadership and communication skills that are holding you back. It's fantastic. We just did one in August. It was a really good event. You can see here, the things that are on this page, guys. We did not hire actors. These are real people that were actually at this event. You can see if I scroll down here, it was intimate. Every single one of these professionals, some entrepreneurs, some actual professionals and just actually working for somebody else, every single one of them walked away with their own step-by-step strategy for what to apply to their life right then and there. And since then, I've heard from some of them, and the advice that they've gotten, they've applied, and it has made a difference in their lives. And you look at we got different ages, different groups. We have people traveling in from all over the place. It was a fantastic event. And that was one day, and it was the first time we did it. Oh, here's Dre and I and Anna. Miss Anna. You get to meet Anna. Don't tell Dre I said this, but Anna is the better half. She's a lot more fun than he is. So you should go just for her, because she'll be speaking at this event too. She'll have a little spot there. But we had a lot of fun, but it was a lot of work. You should come and join us again in January for day 1 and day 2. You will not regret it. Do it. Oh, and this is Anna again. Do it before Dre gets too big, that we cannot do the intimate step-by-step game plan. Because I'm telling you, as an event manager here, take advantage of this while you can. The price tag that is attached to this event is nothing in comparison to the value you actually get. And Dre, while I do know, is quite a good salesperson, he's not going to be able to hone in. I can tell you, look, ask me a question as an event manager. I know every single person's name here. I can tell you exactly how he's helped them. They've reported back to me and how to apply to their life. You guys can do the same thing. So that's why we're doing this, Stray. What would you like to add here about your event in January?
What people got to understand is the value of being in the room and being at events, because many of you who are watching this right now, some of you are new to me. And those of you who are, you will soon find out. And those of you who are not, you already know. I have more content on the internet than any human on this planet. Nobody has put out more content than me since 2005. Not Gary Vee, not Grant Cardone, nobody. So you might be wondering, why would I go to your event if, even if you like my stuff, I can get all your stuff on Instagram and YouTube and your podcast and buy your books and read your articles. And you've put so much of it out up to this point. Well, I'll tell you why. Because it's a whole different energy, and there's a whole different thing that you get. And there's a whole different message you hear when you are in the room. And I've told you all, like, the way that my basketball career really took off is when I got in the room. When I went to that exposure camp in 2005, showed my game there, even though I could have sent a bunch of videos out, I could have sent emails out to every agent. But when I went in the room, that 100x my return on investment in the business world. The thing that most draws me in when I get incoming calls for keynote speaking engagements, I just got one last week and one that I think is going to close this week, is people seeing me giving those TED Talks. And those TED Talks are me being in the room. And being in the room is the same thing that I do. When I do events, it's not just me being on stage and being a star, but it's also I go to events. I put my money out. Just last week, Charlene knows I just put up almost $3,000 on an event that I wasn't even thinking about paying for, but I saw it. It was a good offer. I paid for it. I bought it. And those kind of investments you have to make if you want to take your game to the highest level. I just wrote an article about this the other day. For those of you who didn't get it, I'm going to post that article on Facebook. Matter of fact, today. I forgot to post it the other day, but I will post that on Facebook. I think it was on Saturday that I wrote that article. It's about the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. So I'll end with this. Rich people get richer not because they have a certain amount of money or because they were set up to be successful. Rich people get richer because of their mindset. They think about success differently than poor people think about it. Rich people think about success in the concept of investing in themselves. They make investments in themselves with their time, their money, their attention, their energy, and their focus. Because they make those investments, they get a 10 or 20x return on that investment because they expect to get it. Meaning when they make an investment, they do the work to make sure that investment pays them back. In other words, they move ahead in life through multiplication. They put in 1, they get back 10. They put in 2, you get back 20. So over time, they get 10x, 20x, 30x, 40x. That's how rich get richer. Now, poor people understand that being poor does not mean you go backwards. You still move forward. The problem is the speed of your progress. That's the difference between the rich and the poor. See, poor people, they don't invest in themselves. What they do is they believe incorrectly that hard work is the key to success. Now, I want to make sure you heard what I just said, because this is the work on your game guy telling you that hard work is not the key to success. Poor people think, okay, let me just work hard today. Okay, let me work hard again tomorrow, work hard again the day after that. And they move forward through addition. So they put in 1, they get 1 back. Now they have 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. So in the time it takes the poor person to go from 1 to 5, the rich person is going from 1 to 50, because the rich person is multiplying through investment. The poor person is adding through hard work. And this is why the gap between the rich and the poor gets wider and wider. So y'all remember 10 years ago when they had that Occupy Wall Street thing and people were talking about the 99% and the 1%, even though everybody who lives in America, even if you're broke in America, you're in the top 1%, but everybody considered themselves 99%. The difference in the gap between the rich and the poor is just how fast they move ahead. The reason rich people, again, that is a mindset, has nothing to do with your bank account. The reason they move forward faster is because they invest and multiply. If you want to multiply, what you have to do is start investing in yourself. You put an investment in and you get something out of it. That investment that you see right on the screen for Work on Your Game Live, or when you go to Work on Your Game Live, .live, that website to get your ticket, I guarantee you a 10x return on investment. How can I guarantee that? Because you're going to get my personal attention. I'm going to answer every single question that you have. I'm going to give you everything that you see laid out on that page. And because of the size of our event, because we keep it intimate, I can give attention to everybody. So if you go to the Russell Brunson event or the, who's the other guy, Grant Cardone event, or the whoever, Tony Robbins event, they can't guarantee that because they can't shake every hand. There's too many people there. I can shake every hand. I can look everybody in their face. I can answer all of your questions. I can make sure your notebook is filled up. And we will make sure, we will verbally confirm with you that you got a return on your investment before we let you leave the room. That's an actual fact. I'm not joking. So that's how you can multiply your ROI through investing in yourself. That's why you need to be at work on your game live.
Shit, Dre. You should be selling more often. You're pretty damn good at it. I like it. All right.
Been doing this for a while.
Yeah, I can tell. All right. We've got some things that have come in. So we've got Lucian. Good question. Do you?
Do you feel tightness in your glutes when you walk? No.
I was curious too. All right. Fair enough. He says, just curious, you have an athletic background. So that's why I was asking right here. Just
Who was
follow
asking?
that one.
Me? Yes. Lucian. Yeah. So I guess you might be new to me. Yes, my background is as a pro athlete. Played basketball overseas for 9 years. If you look up, I see your comments coming from YouTube. If you look me up on YouTube, not my latest content, like the last 5-6 years is not basketball, but anything from 2014 going backwards to 2005 is all basketball. So you can see all my basketball stuff. It's still on YouTube.
Yeah, very, very cool. Then we've got Jordan with a great comment here. 80% of life is just showing up. What do you think of that?
100%. And 100%. That is the 5 forms of investment: time, money, attention, energy, and focus. So if you look at those, your time, your energy, your focus, and your attention are all about you physically actually being present somewhere. So that is 80%, literally 80%. So Jordan, we are on the same page.
Ooh, and I love this follow-up, Jordan. Do you have any advice for a first-year college student wanting to be a businesswoman, entrepreneur, boss in the future? She also did say before that she is just a college freshman trying to up her game in the competitive business world. Saw this live and it caught her attention. So welcome, Jordan. It's good to see you here. You're a step ahead of your other college student friends just by being here on this live stream. Not a lot of people your age are doing it right now. So nice job. Glad you're here. What do you think, Dre?
Absolutely. Jordan, you're a step ahead of me when I was a college freshman. I was not looking at it. I wasn't thinking about business at all. I was focused on my 2 majors in college, was basketball and social interaction. But anyway, as far as my advice to you working to be a business person, entrepreneur, boss in the future, number one, make connections at college. The great thing about being at college is that you are in an enclosed environment, mostly enclosed environment, not literally enclosed, but everybody's in the same space. You're all around the same age. You all are there for one purpose, which is try to make yourselves better and groom yourself for the future, for whatever future that's going to be. So make as many connections as you can and dip into different circles. So don't just hang with the if you're an athlete, don't just hang with the athletes. If you're a nerd, don't just hang with the nerds. If you're a computer person, don't just hang with the computer people. Get into different circles and meet all different types of people, because you are never going to be in an environment with all those different types of people in one space for the same reason in the same age group ever again in life. When you get out of college, you will never have that again. So take advantage of that while you're in college. Secondly, go to class, get your degree and all of that. And secondly, what you can do while you're in college is educate yourself outside of the classroom. Make sure that you are reading the books. Listen to people like myself, other entrepreneurs out there, whatever industry you want to get in, go get the books. Go listen to the podcast. Go download the audio books. Go sign up for their free stuff, whatever it is that they're giving out. Get the game. The most important thing is you just got to invest in yourself, get the game, understand the value of personal development, which it sounds like that you do since you're asking these questions, and get the game as early as possible so that when it's time for you to get in the game and run full speed, you already at least know what direction to go in. You're not going to ever have all the answers, but at least know what direction you're headed.
Yeah, love it. Love it, Jordan, and great answer there, Dre. While waiting, this is the last call because actually I do need to wrap here soon. I have another commitment, but I want to go through this as well because you did a really good job talking about what we're doing. Well, you have a robust FAQ section on this page, which I will tell you guys, these are worth reviewing if you have any questions at all. But let's point out this one thing. The one thing that we are doing differently is this right here. Dre is not like just any other person. In fact, in full disclosure, I told him that if we do these, you're welcome, Jordan. If we do these events together, then I want him to be separate even from the other big names that are doing events of their own, and not one of them puts you in touch with a person. If you do call and they have an 800 number, it's probably going to be a call center. It's going to be somebody whose name is Bob working out of India, and all they're going to do is forward your lead. If you call for this event, if you have any questions, you get on my calendar. My name is Charlene Eaton. I have my own business. You get me. You can leave a voicemail. You can text me. But this is a really nice differentiation. So as you're going through these FAQs, really think about them. But if there's anything here that Dre did not include on this page, or maybe you just don't want to ask him. Sometimes you just don't want to bug somebody, or maybe you just assume he's busy. And he is, but you can ask me. That's what I'm here for, so I can have your back. And part of my role is to make sure that there's a good balance on both sides. It's not just Dre running the event that's important. It's actually experience of the people going to the event, the kind of experience you're going to have that matters a lot to both of us. And I can help you answer any questions you guys need. So there we have on that. What are your thoughts there, Dre? What do you think?
I agree. Let Charlene answer all the questions.
All right, very cool. All right, Dre. I think it's time to wrap it. I did do a last call, but I haven't seen you come in. Now we're going to be back tomorrow. Here's the thing. I think we should make an adjustment. Today we got in here, but we have never done a StreamYard together. I think tomorrow we should plan on it being about an hour and a half if you're open for it. And I think we can encourage people to join us again tomorrow. Get your questions in early. I'll tell you this, guys. The earlier you get your questions in, the more you can take advantage of the advice from Dre. On occasion, I'll pipe in with advice of my own, but nobody's here. Well, nobody that follows Dre is here for Dre, but even my people, join us tomorrow and ask the questions you want to ask, and you'll get live feedback. Do it while you can, and then go ahead and get the event ticket, because if you think this is good, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, so tomorrow, full disclosure, I have an interview right at 3:00 tomorrow. And I have
fine.
right
We'll wrap
this,
it.
so we got a tight window tomorrow, but Wednesday we have time.
Perfect. Tomorrow, get your
That's
questions.
The day we need to knock them out anyway. Wednesday.
Yeah, perfect. Tomorrow, get your questions in early so we can address them. Julie, wanted to say thank you all. Truly appreciate it. Likewise, right back at you, lady.
Appreciate you.
And all of you, thank you for joining us. Dre, I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. See everybody tomorrow. Thank you, Charlene. Thank you, Charlene's contacts. See y'all tomorrow.
Bye.
All right.